There are a lot of ways to increase your win ratio in Guild Wars 2 PvP, such as playing what is overpowered, what counters the enemy, or duoing with a strong player. But carrying is something that's completely different and is reliant solely on what you do within the match. And that's what I'll be discussing in this video, is how to carry a match. Not necessarily win, but how to carry. And the major premise of winning any competition is to take as many risks as possible without being punished for them. In the case of Guild Wars 2 Conquest PvP, risks can include leaving a node you own unguarded, engaging the enemy when you're on cooldowns, or fighting a build that counters you. However, sometimes these risks are necessary because of the situation, such as there's no other alternative or better decision, or it is the only win condition and it's like the very end of a match, or you need to change the pace of the match because it's not going in your favor as it is. So there's two ideas to risk management in Guild Wars 2 PvP, and it revolves around switching gears between that risk and that playing safe. So the first one is knowing when to survive. So dying is one of the worst things a player can do for their team because it creates an outnumbered situation while in the down state or they're respawning. There's like a 15-second respawn timer, and while that's happening, your team is at a disadvantage. So going for objectives is important, but playing too greedily for them can result in death, and therefore forfeiting of those objectives. Now, obviously, if you stand on a node, you're constrained in your movement, and that reduces your survivability greatly. So, if not immediately, dying will definitely eventually cause your team to be at a disadvantage. So you should definitely try to remove yourself from, standing within certain areas that are very easy to assault. Use terrain and definitely positioning to survive. Now, while you have cooldowns up, which can help you to survive, you should definitely play aggressively, getting as much value for your skills as possible. While you are on cooldowns, you should swap gears, play safer, use terrain to stall for time until your cooldowns are back up, and then you can go back in and give your team more presence. Dodges are one of the most important resources for surviving, and using them in anticipation of an attack all the time can result in starving yourself of resources. This may sound a bit obvious, but some players still in the high rating, they use their dodges instinctively or as part of a rotation rather than reactively. And while that is fine for some classes, you should still remember to remove yourself from that instinct sometimes and watch for certain animations. When you're beginning to learn your limits, you're going to die a lot, but it's better to push those limits than to play too safely and not give your team enough presence. So I suggest, first of all, giving yourself a really good dodge keybind. I use my mouse buttons for my dodge, and obviously you want to disable double tap to dodge because that's going to also constrict your movement. So yeah, knowing when to survive and kite and when to dodge are really important. The next aspect of risk management is focusing a target. So you're going to play aggressively, right? But how do you play aggressively? Well, you're basically, because of how the rallying and downstate system works in Guild Wars 2, the first team to get a kill usually wins a fight. Being coordinated in your attacks is very important, and not losing sight of the kill too easily is important as well. Just as I mentioned in the survival section, someone you are pressuring will use their cooldowns at first, and then they'll start to use terrain to kite while they're waiting for their cooldowns. Losing focus on someone can be a loss in time invested burning their cooldowns. So keeping on targets is important, but also keeping on the target of your team is a little bit more important because you can sort of break through those cooldowns if you have a coordinated attack. So it just depends on the situation. So for example, there are two roamers on one team and they're chasing a duelist. The duelist is obviously going to survive for a bit, but it's eventually going to die if the two roamers, decide to get the kill and invest enough time in it. However, a support comes to help the duelist. Now, the two roamers could keep on the duelist and keep trying to, get value out of their time invested, but now the support's cooldowns can be contributed to the time required to kill the duelist, which can lead to their cooldowns returning eventually and lengthening the time even more. Alternatively, they can switch target to the support, which can't really get too much help from the duelist and would allow both the roamers to focus the support, who doesn't have much counter pressure or survivability. If you don't understand what the class roles that I'm talking about are, you can check out my What is Rotation video. But yeah, generally these situations can be a little bit complex and take a lot of time to really understand. So I suggest checking out this video, which I'll have linked. And yeah, so being able to focus the right target requires you using a very nice function called, take and call target. So you should go into your keybinds and find a really good keybind to not only call targets but also take targets, and this will allow you to swap targets on the fly or to take command and motivate your team to actually focus and be coordinated. Once you can identify how much risk you can take in your fights to win them, you'll have to make a judgment call with how you handle the risk of rotation. If there are downed enemies, leaving them to bleed out while capping the node is a somewhat risky but valuable play, so long as you keep track of where any potential enemies can come and resurrect them from, and that you have the means to immediately prevent that from happening. It is generally the better play. However, if there are missing players you can't account for, they have classes that can do it in ways that you really can't interact with, or you may not have the cleave or cooldowns to pressure the resurrect attempt, or you just simply aren't sure of whether those situations are going to happen, just stomping or finishing the players is usually the best decision because it's the lowest risk. Because you spent all that time getting the kill, you don't want to risk losing that, right? You want to still cash in on the kill that you invested in, even though you may not get the most out of it. However, in a lot of situations, there's going to be multiple players that are leaving a fight that they've just won. Usually the person who's capping the node is left to make that decision whether stomping or capping is more important, and let that person decide. And if you're not that person, immediately move on to other fights around the map. If you're not the one capping the node and you're stomping, it's usually the wrong play. Unless you see that someone's like respawning and rotating into the fight you just won, you don't want to let them extend that fight, right? So you want to definitely stomp that out there, especially if it's a ranger. You don't want to mess around with rangers because there's a lot of funny business they can do with self-resing. And guardians too have a little bit of self-res potential. So once you've gotten this down, top players will usually minimize their deaths per match to around 0 to 3, depending on the difficulty of the match. If you're dying more than that, there's a severe lack of presence being given to your team. So try to die as little as possible, and you'll often find that situations present themselves to you more often. Whereas if you greed to try to get too much presence for your team, you can die and miss those opportunities. For example, if a key buff is going to spawn and your whole team is dead before that happens, well then you can't contest that. So in a way, dying for one objective prevents you from contesting all other objectives. So you have to really be careful with that. And if you successfully manage these risks, you'll end up wasting the time of the enemy by taking risks when you can, and you'll also get the most out of your time spent. And that's really what rotation requires, and how to actually win matches or to carry matches in Guild Wars 2 PvP. So here's a Core Guardian match. The role of Core Guardian is a sort of roamer DPS, and it's not amazing in the current meta, but I'll be showing you how I manage the risks in this match. So I immediately call target on their Necro and just go very aggressive, because I know that I can get a lot of damage on Necromancers because they can't really dodge when they're immobilized, which is one thing that I have a specialty in doing is killing Necros. I do see that the Rifle Warrior's on me though, and he's got the unblockable buff, as I can see right there, so I have to really watch out for that Rifle Warrior because a lot of my defense comes from blocks. But there's no way I can really help my Revenant get on the Rifle Warrior right now because I have another Revenant on me, and I use a little bit of terrain there, and now I'm just sitting on the node waiting for cooldowns. I do see that their Necro is rotating out of a fight there, so they probably are a little bit low on cooldowns. So I try to focus it with all of my burst combo again. They do instantly rally, so that was kind of bad timing on my part. But now we're in a 2v3 situation, so I need to play a lot more safely than I am right now. But I make a mistake, and I rush into an outnumbered situation, and I tank a kill shot right to the face. So as I said, you want to minimize your deaths, but you also want to test your limits. So now I kind of know, the Rifle Warrior is really a threat, and I need to start playing around that a little bit more to prevent my team from getting free casted on by it. But that's also an issue with this comp, because they also have a Necro, a Reaper, that I don't want to be free casting on my team. So I have to be very careful and choose my targets. So right here, I'm on the Warrior. I get my immobilized. They can't really do much else. I guess they had their heal on cooldown. And now I see that their LE comes to almost go for a res play there, so I immediately cleave it out instantly. I can't really get much value from bleeding there, and especially because I can't really do anything at mid anyways. So me getting that kill there and instantly cleaving it just kind of secures my position in this outnumbered situation, which is good enough, right? Because my team should be winning home and we have far, so a 2 cap is good enough. So as soon as my team comes in, I start trying to focus targets with them. They have target on the Necro, but one of ours is dead, so I try to use my port to get out because I'm being chased from that fight, and I port into another fight, and I try to focus whatever they were fighting to try to create a different momentum from me getting chased to them getting chased, right? You always want to be playing aggressive if you can, even when you're getting a little bit disadvantaged. And here we don't really know a target. We're trying to find a target, and I kite off, or my warrior who is kiting off, I try to focus the Mesmer who's attacking him to try to peel for them. And now that the Mesmer is really pressured, my warrior is completely safe, and I've basically created presence for my team by attacking whatever's attacking them, right? So that they can attack. And the Mesmer gets rezzed by the Reaper. So now we're kind of disadvantaged because my teammates are kind of tunnel visioning. I poured in to try to kite, and I need to survive with no cooldown. So I'm using terrain very liberally. But I don't know if my team got the stomp there in time, but yeah, I don't know if I would have rallied from that because I don't think I hit the warrior. But our team should be in an advantage here at mid because we did kind of get more kills, and the guy who killed me is still really pressured. So they kind of tunnel visioned, to be honest, my team, and left me to die. But I did a really good job of surviving long enough for them to get the advantage in that fight before becoming outnumbered again. And now I see that their warrior is back, and I need to focus them so that they can't focus me. But it's kind of hard to do when I'm in an outnumbered situation again. So I just try to kite with terrain. There's no way that I get the decap, so there's no way that I should stand on the node yet. I do see that my teammate is getting chased here, but so am I. And if I try to peel for them, I'll just die instead. So I'd rather not risk that. And yeah, at this point, I'm just getting chased by the Revenant, and it looks like they're running some kind of like really tanky build. So there's no way that I can really kill this. So I'm just trying to create distance between them and my team, so that I can reconvene with my team and get a focus on the Necro like I do right here. So yeah, we get this kill, and now that I'm with my team, we easily get the kill on the Revenant. So even though I was in an unfavored matchup before, I created a favored situation by playing with my team and, you know, surviving long enough until we could focus a target. So now I'm just watching for respawns. This is a very nice spot that I was standing in there because it gives you a view of the enemy team's respawn. So it's a very unrisky kind of position to be in, right? But it's also a very valuable situation to be in because you can rotate. It gives you kind of like a very advantageous rotational potential, I guess. So yeah, I'm 1v1ing this Mesmer, and this is kind of a favored matchup because I have so much retail and they have so many hits that they take a lot of damage from retail. But I'm not sure of the situation here, and I'm kind of low on cooldowns. I have a lot of cooldowns coming up soon though, so as soon as they come up, I play aggressively again. And now I'm back in, pressuring the Mesmer, and yeah, so now I'm out of cooldowns, but I think that we can get the kills at this point, so I'm just forcing the kill even though I'm really low on cooldowns, because so are they. And so what we're doing with this Mesmer is we're bleeding it and just getting the kill on the Rev, and since I'm not the one to cap, and no one even really needs to cap, I just move out immediately. Whoever's the last person to rotate out, it's their job to watch the down states, or to make sure that they stay downed. And I'm just getting focused by this Reaper here a little bit, but I know that as soon as they leave Shroud, they're going to be very vulnerable, so I want to get in position to immediately jump on them. And I've got a target on their head as well, so my Revenant is also on it with me. But they're kind of porting around. They're back in Shroud, so I can't really do much at this point other than put on my Focus 4 because my ports won't really get me there. So I go back to help my team there at mid, and I see that their Mesmer goes in stealth. The only place that they really would go, I guess they went to the mine or the quarry, but they could have gone to home. So I just, instead of staying at mid, I tried to rotate and just create movement, because while it's riskier to try to chase the Mesmer, it is also kind of like risky to stay in the same place, right? Because my team could die if the Mesmer rotates somewhere else and kills my team. So I definitely want to take that risk in guessing where they go, because if I go nowhere, then it's only a good play if they go nowhere, right? You always want to be moving if you're unsure where the enemy is, unless there's some, as I said, some kind of like situation where just staying in one place is the win condition. Like at the end of the game and you only need one node. So here I've got the Rifle Warrior on me again while I'm trying to pressure the Reaper, and the Power Mesmer is on me as well. So I have to play really safe here. I have my JI up and I use it to juke on one of the clones, and I juke back to try to... Basically, I survived being focused by like 3 people here just because I use my ports and positioning very intelligently, and that allows my team to get the kill on the Mesmer, which I can focus down with them after I, get a little bit more health back in my cooldowns. So at this point, we're basically snowballing, right? Our warrior isn't really doing the right play. They should be... Well, it looks like, yeah, mid's getting decapped now, so they were doing the right play, then they did it wrong. They got decapped somehow. They should have... If they knew that someone was coming, they should have not gotten decapped. But I'm in this 1v1 now, and this is kind of a favored matchup because anything that's like very squishy, I can just bully out. So this is a good matchup. It's not very risky, and I can get the kill easily. So now that I've got the kill, I can just sit here and cap the node without any risk of there being a resurrect happening. I get the body down a little bit, but I still then bleed it the rest of the way, right? But if someone tries to res, I can easily cleave it down with symbols and stuff. He's talking about being a tryhard, which, I mean, in this case, I am tryharding to carry the match, so, I mean, he's not wrong. But I'm also not wrong that I could be trying harder by playing Revenant, right? So, yeah, I just get on the Necro. I'm not sure if I called the target on the Necro, but definitely should be focusing the Necro. I see that my ally is down, so I really shouldn't be staying here too long. I should probably leave. But I do know that their Necro is really low, so I could maybe get a kill on that. But yeah, it's too risky. Yeah, they have too much damage there, and I'm probably going to die for this. I see there's a yeah, so I saw the Necro, and I used my ports to get out of there as fast as possible. So I used that, the distance to create a surviving situation for me. But I'm still in a bad place, right? Because I don't have many cooldowns. So I'm just trying to survive and wait for cooldowns. I've actually gotten out of combat here, so we're in a good position. But my scrapper didn't really survive long enough, even though I was being focused. So I just need to go back into kite mode because my team they didn't survive long enough, even though I was being pressured. So I need to play safe here, especially because the warrior's on me. And I see he's got the unblockable up, so there's no way that I can avoid the burst. So I just port in and blind it instead. And now I'm pretty safe. I don't need to block anything because he's used his burst. My Rev is just kind of standing on node, so they're gonna die for free. So I decide to just leave. Yeah, he's dead. I see that my NG is getting the cap at mid, so I want to stall and peel for my other teammate. But now I'm getting focused, right? So this is fine. But I do need to play safe. So the Reaper has been really hard pressured by me, and I can sort of survive. I didn't really need to use my elite there, but I was just playing as safe as possible because I know that the win condition is just holding these 2 people here as long as possible. Obviously the Necro leaves, so there's a potential of my team losing mid, but there's not really anything I could do because if I try to leave, then he'll just turn around and kill me with the warrior. So now I should be leaving to go mid, but to be honest, my team should be they should be favored at mid because they were outnumbering for longer since I was 1v2'd. Yeah, and also since this is a rifle warrior, I can win this 1v1 as a win condition. So yeah, that's a favored matchup for me. And yeah, so just finding the right moments to play aggressively and then swapping gears to play defensively at the right moments was key for me winning that match. And as you can see, I got top healing and top kills. So I survived probably the best, and I probably got the most kills for my team. So I would say that that's carry.